lather up, pouring it on.
Cutting line is steamrolling for Miller.
Nancy Johansson, trainer of Captain Crunch. So Nancy, tell us your thoughts on Captain Crunch's elimination effort and discuss the break in stride.
So obviously his elimination didn't really go as I had envisioned, but he made a big recovery from that, and he actually saw some shadows in the first turn that just were a little bit too much for him at that speed that he was going. So he took a couple steps that he probably shouldn't have taken, but he did. But Scott Zarin was able to get him out of the field quickly and get him back on stride. With that happening, he ended up being outside the entire mile, which is, ideally definitely not a good place to be. But the horse is, he's a strong colt, and, I could see coming down this stretch that he was starting to get tired. They went a quick 26-2 third quarter, and he's trying to catch the field at that point, and, from a stop being put back into play, it's not an easy place for him to be, but you could just tell that he was gritting away and doing the best that he could.
So how did he come out of the race?
Everything seems fine. He's healthy and sound and happy, and he's really coming into the race nice and, as best as I would have, hoped for him to do. He's going to train a little bit tomorrow morning at Mohawk, and we'll just get him around the track and let him, recoup, have a good experience going through that turn before Saturday. Not that I think that the turn's any problem, and it's going to be night racing, so there won't be any shadows, but, it's always good for him just to have the last experience going through the turn being a good experience.
So will there be any equipment changes with him going into Saturday?
No, prior to him making that break, we've never had any real issues with him, so the equipment's going to stay the same as it's always been.
You drew post 8, so what are some of the strengths that Captain Crunch possesses that will help him going into Saturday night?
So when the draw was going, he was one of the last two picked, and it was the 1 or the 8 that was left, and I was thinking, okay, I'd rather have the 8 than the 1. The 1 can be a little bit of a tough, spot to be going, in the start of the race in the first turn. The 8 gives us some options. It's a good spot for, Scott to be able to cross over from. So, I'm happy with 8. That works well for me.
So based on the draw, who do you think is the biggest threat on Saturday night, and which horse do you think will surprise everyone as the dark horse?
That's actually a good question, because I haven't really thought about anybody else, because I'm so concerned about making sure that my horse is in good form. But, I don't know. Better Wish raced good last week. He's a small, handy horse. I don't know if he's going to, when the pace is a little hotter. He got a 30-second breather in that race, so obviously he's not going to get that this week, so we'll have to see how that sets up differently. Burke's colts are both nice colts. Brian Brown's colt is a nice colt, so I think there's plenty of talent in the field. Honestly, I think my horse is a little bit better than the rest of them, but I'm a little biased. But we'll, it's horse racing. Like we saw last weekend, anything can happen. And, we've got to race the race, and we'll see who comes out on top.
So you had Western Vintage a few years ago. Ironically, he finished 4th in his elimination, but didn't qualify for the final. Captain Crunch finished 5th and gets in. So how does it feel to have your first crack at this $1 million race?
Well, Western Vintage was my first yearling that I ever trained myself, so obviously he was very special to me. He actually got interfered in his elimination. There should have been an injection, but there wasn't. But you know what, it's a great race. Pepsi North American Cup is, one of the races that everybody, circles in their calendar every year, and to be a part of it is, a great thing to be. My dad never won the North American Cup, so hopefully I can get it done for the family. If not, I'm still young, and I have probably a lot of shots in the future.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time, Nancy, and best of luck on Saturday.
Thank you.